The crystal chandelier above the marble foyer flickered as I stepped through the servants' entrance, my worn sneakers squeaking against floors so polished I could see my own exhausted reflection. The scent hit me first, expensive leather, aged wood, and something floral I couldn't name, probably from flowers that cost more than my monthly rent. My fingers trembled as I clutched my resume, the paper already creased from being folded and unfolded a dozen times on the bus ride here. I shouldn't have been here. This wasn't my world. The employment agency had called that morning, their tone urgent, almost desperate. We need someone immediately. The family is particular, but the pay is exceptional. Exceptional meant I could finally afford my mother's medication without choosing between that and electricity. Exceptional meant maybe, just maybe, I could stop wearing shoes with holes in the soles. "You must be Miss Harper." The voice came from a woman in her 50s, dressed in a crisp black uniform that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Her eyes scanned me from head to toe, and I watched her lips thin with barely concealed disapproval. "Follow me." Quickly. Mr. Salvatore doesn't like to be kept waiting. My heart hammered against my ribs as I followed her clicking heels through hallways lined with paintings that belonged in museums. Everything screamed wealth, the kind that didn't just whisper, it roared. The kind that made people like me invisible. We stopped outside a door of dark mahogany. The woman, Mrs. Chen, she'd said, knocked twice, precise and controlled. "Enter." The voice from inside was deep, accented with something European I couldn't place. It carried weight, the kind of authority that made your spine straighten involuntarily. The office was enormous, all dark wood and leather, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a garden that looked professionally maintained, but I barely noticed the decor, my attention fixed on the man behind the desk. He didn't look up immediately. His focus remained on the documents before him, one hand holding a fountain pen that probably cost more than my car, if I'd had a car. He wore a charcoal suit that fit him like it had been sewn onto his body, the fabric catching the light as he moved. Even seated, I could tell he was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that consumed oxygen. When he finally raised his eyes, I forgot how to breathe. Dark eyes, almost black, framed by thick lashes that had no business being on a man. His face was all sharp angles, strong jaw shadowed with stubble, high cheekbones, a nose that looked like it had been broken once and healed slightly crooked. There was a scar, thin and pale, running from his left eyebrow into his hairline. He couldn't have been much older than 35, but his eyes looked ancient, like they'd seen things that aged souls faster than years ever could. "Miss Harper." He said my name like he was tasting it, testing how it felt in his mouth. "You're younger than I expected. I'm 24. My voice came out smaller than I intended. "But I have experience. 3 years with the Morrison family, and before that, I don't care about your experience." He set down his pen with deliberate precision. "My daughters are 5 years old. They haven't slept through the night in 8 months. 7 nannies have quit. The last one left crying." He leaned back in his chair, and I caught a glimpse of something dark under his collar. A tattoo, maybe. "Mrs. Chen says you need this job. Desperately, is that true?" Heat flooded my cheeks. The humiliation of having my desperation laid bare made my eyes sting, but I forced myself to meet his gaze. "Yes." "Good." Something that might have been approval flickered across his face. "Desperate people don't quit easily. The pay is $15,000 a month. You'll live here. You don't leave the property without permission. You don't ask questions about my business. You don't speak to anyone about this family. Are we clear?" 15,000. The number made my head spin. That was more than I'd made in 6 months at my last job. Crystal clear. "The twins are upstairs. Sophia and Isabella. They're..." He paused, and for the first time, I saw something crack in that impenetrable facade. Exhaustion, maybe, or frustration, difficult. Their mother died 2 years ago. Since then, they've been troubled. My chest tightened. "I'm sorry for your loss." His jaw clenched. "Save your sympathy. Can you handle them or not?" "I can try." "Trying isn't good enough." He stood, and I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. He was easily 6'3", maybe taller, and up close I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive with notes of cedar and smoke. You will succeed, Miss Harper. Failure is not an option in this house. The threat hung in the air between us, unspoken but understood. Mrs. Chen appeared at the door as if summoned by telepathy. I'll show her to the nursery. As I turned to leave, his voice stopped me. Miss Harper. I looked back. His dark eyes fixed on mine with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Don't disappoint me. The nursery was on the 3rd floor, past more hallways and more evidence of obscene wealth. Mrs. Chen opened the door to reveal a room that looked like a princess's dream. Canopy beds with silk curtains, toys that probably cost more than my car would have if I'd had one, walls painted with murals of fairy tale castles. And in the center of this perfection, 2 identical little girls sat on the floor, surrounded by torn books and broken dolls. They had their father's dark eyes and hair that fell in waves past their shoulders. They wore matching white nightgowns that were smudged with what looked like paint or food. When they looked up at me, I saw none of the innocence children were supposed to have. Instead, I saw calculation, assessment, challenge. Another one. The girl on the left said, Sophia or Isabella, I couldn't tell. She won't last either. They never do, her sister agreed. They spoke in unison, finishing each other's sentences in a way that made my skin crawl. Mrs. Chen cleared her throat. Girls, this is Miss Harper. She'll be taking care of you from now on. I expect you to behave. They didn't respond, just stared at me with those unsettling dark eyes. I'll leave you to get acquainted, Mrs. Chen said, and I heard the relief in her voice as she practically fled. The door clicked shut, and I was alone with them. Hi, I said, trying to smile. You can call me Emma. What are you 2 playing? We're not playing, one of them said. We're destroying. The other giggled, a sound that didn't match her angelic face. The last nanny cried when we cut up her favorite dress. Want to see our scissors? I should have been afraid. Any sane person would have been. But looking at these 2 little girls who'd lost their mother, who were clearly crying out for help in the only way they knew how, I just felt sad. Your dad told me you don't sleep well, I said, sitting down on the floor across from them. Up close, I could see the dark circles under their eyes, the pallor of their skin. Why not? They exchanged a look, some silent communication passing between them. The monsters. Sophia, I was guessing based on a slightly smaller birthmark near her ear, said quietly. They come when it's dark. And Mama, Isabella whispered. We hear her crying. My throat tightened. I'm sorry about your mama. Everyone's sorry, Sophia said, her voice hardening. But sorry doesn't bring her back. I spent the next hour trying to engage them, but they remained distant, hostile, testing me with small cruelties, spilling water on my already worn cardigan, accidentally stepping on my feet, making demands, and then changing their minds the moment I tried to comply. By the time evening fell and Mrs. Chen brought their dinner, food they refused to eat, I was exhausted, but I didn't leave. I sat with them, reading stories they pretended not to listen to, offering comfort they pretended not to need. When bedtime came, the real battle began. We're not sleeping, Isabella announced. We never sleep. You have to sleep sometime, I said gently. Make us, Sophia challenged. I didn't try to force them. Instead, I dimmed the lights until the room glowed soft and golden, and I began to sing. It was a lullaby my own mother used to sing to me, before the cancer, before everything fell apart. My voice wasn't perfect, but it was honest. The twins fell silent. I saw their rigid postures soften slightly. I sang until my throat grew hoarse, until the clock showed past midnight. Their eyes drooped, fought to stay open, drooped again. Finally, they slept. I sagged against the wall between their beds, relief flooding through me. I'd done it. One night down, and they were sleeping. I must have dozed off myself because I woke to the sound of screaming. Both girls were sitting upright in their beds, shrieking in perfect unison, their faces masks of terror. I rushed to them, trying to comfort them, but they were inconsolable, trapped in some nightmare I couldn't reach. The door burst open. He filled the doorway, still in his suit pants, but now with his shirt partially unbuttoned, revealing more of that dark tattoo. It looked like wings, or maybe flames. His hair was disheveled, and his eyes were wild with something that looked like panic before his mask slammed back into place. "What did you do?" His voice was deadly quiet. "Nothing. They just started screaming. He crossed the room in 3 strides, gathering both girls into his arms with a tenderness that seemed impossible from a man who radiated such danger. They clung to him, sobbing, and he murmured to them in a language I didn't understand. Italian, maybe. Slowly, their screams faded to whimpers. "Out," he said to me, not looking up. "Now." I fled to the small bedroom Mrs. Chen had shown me earlier, my heart racing. I'd failed. On the first night, I'd failed. I was packing my pitiful belongings when my door opened without a knock. He stood there, filling the frame, and I realized with a start that I could see the shoulder holster he wore under his arm. A gun. He had a gun. Of course he did. "They're sleeping again," he said. His voice was different now, rough with exhaustion. "You got them to sleep first. No one else has managed that in months. But the nightmares aren't your fault. They have them every night, multiple times." He ran a hand through his hair, and I saw his fingers shake slightly before he clenched them into a fist. "You stay. Unless you want to quit." "I don't want to quit." "Good." He turned to leave, then paused. "What did you do? To make them sleep the first time?" "I sang to them." Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, maybe, or pain. "Their mother used to sing." His jaw clenched. "Don't stop. Whatever you're doing, don't stop." He left, and I heard the click of a lock somewhere down the hall, multiple locks. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. What kind of man needed that much security in his own home? What kind of life had made 2 5-year-old girls so hardened, so damaged? The house settled around me with creaks and whispers, and somewhere in the distance, I heard voices, men's voices, speaking in low, urgent tones. This wasn't a normal household. Nothing about this was normal, but $15,000 a month, my mother's medication, a roof over my head. I'd stay. I'd make this work. I had no choice. What I didn't know, as I finally drifted into an uneasy sleep, was that the man down the hall, the man with dark eyes and darker secrets, had already made a decision about me. I just didn't know what it was yet. The days blurred together in a haze of exhaustion and small victories. Sophia and Isabella tested me relentlessly, hiding my belongings, refusing meals, screaming at odd hours. But each night, when I sang, they eventually surrendered to sleep. Sometimes for only an hour before the nightmares came, sometimes, on blessed nights, for 3 or 4. I learned their patterns. Sophia was the leader, the one who orchestrated their rebellion. Isabella followed, but she was softer, more likely to crack first. I learned that they loved strawberries but hated anything green, that they could recite entire books from memory, that they drew pictures of their mother obsessively. Always the same image, a woman with dark hair standing in a doorway. Always walking away. It broke my heart every time. I saw their father rarely. He was a shadow in the house, appearing at odd hours, always surrounded by men in dark suits who spoke in hushed tones. Sometimes I'd hear him with the girls in the morning before I woke, his deep voice gentle in a way that seemed impossible. But when he saw me, his expression would shudder, become unreadable. I was furniture to him, hired help. Nothing more. Until the 4th night. I was in the nursery reading to the twins when the door opened. He stood there in another perfectly tailored suit, navy this time, with a crisp white shirt that made his olive skin seem to glow, but it was his eyes that caught me. They looked different, tired, almost human. "Out," he said to the girls, his tone gentle but firm. "I need to speak with Miss Harper." Sophia's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because I said so." There was no anger in his voice, just absolute authority. "Go to the playroom. Marco will watch you." The twins exchanged one of their silent communications before sliding off the bed. As they passed their father, he touched each of their heads with a tenderness that made my chest ache. Isabella paused, looking back at me with something that might have been worry. "It's okay," I assured her, though my heart was hammering. When they were gone, he closed the door. The click of the latch sounded too loud in the sudden silence. "Mr. Salvatore, if this is about Dante." He moved closer, and I caught that scent again, cedar and smoke, and something uniquely him. My name is Dante. You've been here almost a week. You've lasted longer than anyone. You can use my name. Dante, I repeated, the syllables feeling foreign on my tongue. He sat on the edge of Sophia's bed, and the casual gesture felt wrong somehow, like watching a panther try to appear domesticated. They're sleeping better. Not well, but better. Mrs. Chen says they're eating more, fighting less. They're good girls, I said carefully. They're just hurting. Everyone hurts. His voice was flat. Not everyone destroys things. They're 5. They lost their mother. How else are they supposed to express? Don't, the word cut like a blade. Don't psychoanalyze my daughters. I pay you to care for them, not to fix them. Heat flooded my cheeks. I'm sorry. I didn't mean... You have compassion. He studied me with those dark, unreadable eyes. It's dangerous. This house, this life, compassion, is a weakness. I don't believe that. Then you're naive. He stood, and I had to crane my neck to maintain eye contact, but maybe that's what they need. Someone who still believes people can be saved. He moved toward the door, but I found my voice before he could leave. Can I ask you something? He paused, hand on the doorknob. You can ask. I may not answer. The locks, the men with guns, the way everyone speaks in whispers. I took a breath. What are you protecting them from? For a long moment, he said nothing. When he finally turned to face me, his expression was carved from stone. Everything. Everyone. The world wants to take from me, Miss Harper. My daughters are the only things I have left that matter. I will burn this city to ash before I let anyone harm them. The intensity in his voice made me shiver. This wasn't hyperbole. He meant every word. Now you ask yourself, he continued, moving closer until I could see flecks of gold in those dark eyes. If you want to stay in a house with a man like me, a man who would kill without hesitation to protect what's his. I should have been terrified. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But I thought of Sophia and Isabella, of the way they clung to each other in sleep, of the nightmares that made them scream. I want to stay, I whispered. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe approval, then stop asking questions, do your job. Keep them safe and sleeping and we'll have no problems. He left, and I sank onto the bed, my legs suddenly weak. That night, after I'd sung the girls to sleep, I couldn't settle. I wandered to the kitchen for water, moving quietly through the dark house. The staff had retired for the night, and the silence was oppressive. I was heading back upstairs when I heard voices from behind a closed door. Dante's study. Don't care what Rossi wants. He touches my shipment again, and I'll personally deliver his head to his father. Dante's voice, cold and lethal. Boss, if we move against the Rossi family... Another voice, male, anxious. Then we move. I don't negotiate with thieves. I should have kept walking. Should have fled back to my room, but I stood frozen, my hand pressed against my mouth. Shipments. Families. This wasn't just wealth. This was something else entirely. What about the girl? The nanny. A different voice now. Rough. She's been asking questions. Mrs. Chen reported, Emma asks nothing that matters. The way he said my name, my first name, made my skin prickle. She cares about my daughters, that's all. She's a liability. She sees too much. She sees what I allow her to see. Dante's voice dropped to something dangerous. And she's not your concern. Is that clear, Marco? Crystal, boss. I fled then, my heart in my throat, taking the stairs 2 at a time. I made it to my room and locked the door, pressing my back against it as I tried to catch my breath. What had I walked into? The pieces were falling into place. The weapons, the security, the way people spoke to Dante with a mixture of fear and respect. The casual mentions of families and shipments. Dante Salvatore wasn't just wealthy. He was dangerous, powerful, probably criminal. And I was living in his house, caring for his children. I should quit, should run as far and as fast as possible. But $15,000 a month, my mother's bills, and 2 little girls who needed someone, anyone, to show them kindness. I was trapped. A different kind of cage than poverty, but a cage nonetheless. Sleep came fitfully that night, haunted by dreams of dark eyes and darker secrets. The next morning, I found an envelope slipped under my door. Inside was cash, my first week's pay, plus a bonus, and a note in harsh, angular handwriting. For your mother's medication. Don't think I don't know why you're really here. My hands shook as I held the money. He'd investigated me. Of course he had. A man like that didn't hire strangers without knowing every detail of their lives. It should have felt invasive. It should have made me angry. Instead, I felt seen. For the first time in months, someone had noticed my struggle and acted. I found him in his office that afternoon, after the twins had gone down for their nap. I knocked, waited for his gruff enter, then stepped inside. He was on the phone, speaking rapid Italian, but when he saw me, he held up one finger. I waited, studying the room I'd barely noticed during our first meeting. The bookshelves lined with leather-bound volumes. The paintings, originals probably. The small photo on his desk, partially hidden, of him with a woman who had to be the twins' mother. She was beautiful, dark-haired and laughing, caught mid-spin in what looked like a garden. He looked younger in the photo, less carved from granite, happy. Miss Harper. His voice snapped me back to attention. Is there a problem? I wanted to thank you. For the advance and the extra, it's not charity. He set down his phone with deliberate care. I need you focused. Worried employees make mistakes. Consider it an investment in my daughter's well-being. Still, thank you. He nodded once, dismissing my gratitude. How are they today? Better. Sophia let me braid her hair this morning. Isabella asked if we could bake cookies. Something softened in his expression, so briefly I almost missed it. Their mother used to bake with them, before. He didn't finish. Didn't need to. I could teach them her recipes, I offered quietly. If you wanted. Mrs. Chen might know. No. The word was sharp, then softer. But thank you. An awkward silence fell between us. I should have left, should have returned to my duties. Instead, I heard myself asking, what was her name? Their mother, his jaw clenched. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, Lucia. Her name was Lucia. That's beautiful. She was beautiful. He picked up the photograph, his thumb tracing the edge. She was too good for a man like me, too pure, too kind. His eyes met mine, and I saw raw pain there. This world killed her, my world. And every day I see her in my daughter's faces and know that I failed to protect her. My throat tightened. It wasn't your fault. You don't know that. You don't know anything about what happened. Then tell me. No. He set the photo down, and the mask slammed back into place. Return to your duties, Miss Harper. This conversation is over. I left, but his pain lingered with me like smoke. That evening, as I was getting the twins ready for bed, Isabella tugged on my sleeve. Emma, do you like our papa? The question caught me off guard. I don't know him very well. He's sad, Sophia said matter-of-factly. He's always sad. Since Mama died. Losing someone you love is very hard, I said carefully. Do you think he'll ever be happy again? Isabella's dark eyes, so much like her father's, searched mine. I thought of Dante's face when he'd held that photograph, the raw agony there. I think he's happy when he's with you two. You're his whole world. The twins exchanged one of their looks. We heard him talking to Marco, Sophia whispered, glancing at the door to make sure it was closed. He said you're different. Special. My heart stuttered. I'm sure he just meant, he never talks about the nannies, Isabella interrupted. But he talks about you. Before I could respond, the door opened. Dante stood there, and from his expression, he'd heard at least part of the conversation. Girls, bed, now. They scrambled under the covers without argument, and I realized I was holding my breath. Miss Harper, a word, in the hallway. I followed him out, my pulse racing. He closed the door behind us, and we stood in the dimly lit corridor, close enough that I could see a muscle ticking in his jaw. What exactly have my daughters been telling you? His voice was quiet, controlled, but I heard the danger underneath. Nothing. They're children. They imagine things, misunderstand adult conversations. He stepped closer, and I backed against the wall. He braced one hand beside my head, leaning down until his face was level with mine. If they've given you ideas about anything, you need to forget them immediately. I don't have any ideas. My voice came out breathier than intended. Mr. Salvatore, Dante, I'm just the nanny. I know my place. Do you? His dark eyes searched mine, and I couldn't read the emotion there, because you don't look at me like the other staff. You're not afraid enough. Maybe I should be. Yes, you should be. But he didn't move away. If anything, he leaned closer, and I could feel the heat radiating from his body. I'm not a good man, Emma. I've done things that would make you run screaming. The blood on my hands. He stopped himself, jaw clenching. You should be terrified of me. Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to keep you alive. His hand moved from the wall to cup my face, his thumb brushing my cheekbone with devastating gentleness, because if my enemies knew that you were becoming important to me, they'd use you to hurt me. And I can't. His voice roughened. I can't lose anyone else. The admission hung between us, raw and honest. I'm not important to you, I whispered. I'm just... Don't. His thumb pressed against my lips, silencing me. Don't tell me what you are to me. You have no idea. Then he was gone, striding down the hallway, leaving me trembling against the wall. I pressed my fingers to my lips where his thumb had been, my heart racing. This was dangerous. This was insane, but I couldn't deny the truth anymore. I was falling into something I didn't understand, something that terrified and thrilled me in equal measure, and I had no idea how to stop. 3 weeks passed in a strange, suspended reality. The twins grew more attached to me with each day, their walls crumbling brick by brick. Sophia started holding my hand during walks in the garden. Isabella began calling me Emmy, and would crawl into my lap during story time. The nightmares still came, but less frequently, and when they did, my voice could sometimes soothe them back to sleep without their father's intervention. Dante remained a contradictory presence, distant yet observant, cold yet capable of unexpected tenderness. I'd catch him watching me with the girls, his expression unreadable. Sometimes he'd join us for meals, sitting at the head of the table while the twins chattered about their day. He never said much, but his eyes would track my every movement, making my skin prickle with awareness. The staff had begun to treat me differently too. Mrs. Chen's disapproval had softened into grudging respect. Marco, the head of Dante's security team, a mountain of a man with scars and cold eyes, actually nodded at me in the hallways now. Even the cook, Rosa, had started making my favorite tea without being asked. I was becoming part of the household, part of this strange, dangerous world. And that terrified me more than anything. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything shifted. The twins and I were in the garden, painting with watercolors on large sheets of paper spread across the patio table. The spring sun was warm on my shoulders, and for a moment, I could almost forget the armed guards stationed at every corner of the property, the high walls topped with security cameras, the constant undercurrent of danger. Emmy, look! Isabella held up her painting, a somewhat abstract rendition of a butterfly. It's for Papa. Do you think he'll like it? He'll love it, I assured her, helping her clean her brush. Papa doesn't love anything except us, Sophia said matter-of-factly, her own painting showing more precision, a detailed flower garden. Mrs. Chen says his heart is made of stone. Mrs. Chen shouldn't say things like that, I chided gently. Your papa loves you very much. Hearts aren't made of stone. What are they made of? Isabella asked, tilting her head. Feelings, memories, hope. What about your heart, Emmy? Sophia's dark eyes studied me with unsettling intelligence. What's it made of? Before I could answer, Marco appeared at the garden entrance, his expression tense. Miss Harper, the boss needs you. Now. My stomach dropped. Is something wrong? Just come. I instructed Rosa to watch the twins and followed Marco through the house. His pace was quick, urgent, and I had to half-jog to keep up. We didn't go to Dante's study. Instead, Marco led me to a part of the house I'd never entered. a wing that was always locked, always off limits. He swiped a keycard, and heavy doors opened to reveal a sleek, modern corridor. Security monitors lined one wall, showing every angle of the property. Men in suits moved with purpose, speaking into earpieces, their hands never far from their weapons. This was the heart of Dante's operation. Whatever he did, whoever he was, this was where it happened. Marco stopped outside a reinforced door. He's in there. Don't ask questions. Don't react to what you see. Just do what he says. He opened the door, and I stepped into what looked like a medical room. Clean, sterile, with equipment I didn't recognize. And in the center, sitting on an examination table while a man in scrubs stitched his shoulder, was Dante. Blood stained his white shirt, torn and ruined. More blood streaked his face, his hands. But his eyes, when they met mine, were alert, sharp, dangerous. Out, he said to the doctor and Marco. They left without question. We were alone. You're hurt, I said stupidly, my medical training from my 1 year of nursing school kicking in. What happened? Business. He watched me carefully, as if waiting for me to scream or faint or run. It's handled. I moved closer, examining the wound. A long gash across his shoulder, deep but clean. The stitches were professional, neat. This needs to be properly dressed. You could get an infection. That's why you're here. He gestured to a cabinet. Bandages. Antiseptic. I need you to finish what the doctor started. Why me? Why not? Because I need to know if you can handle this. His voice was hard. This is my life, Emma. Blood, violence, danger. If you can't stomach it, I need to know now. My hands trembled as I gathered the supplies. But I didn't hesitate. I'd seen worse during my brief time in nursing school, before my mother's diagnosis had forced me to drop out. I'd learned to compartmentalize, to focus on the task rather than the trauma. I cleaned the wound with steady hands, applied antiseptic, wrapped the bandage with practiced efficiency. Dante remained perfectly still throughout, not even flinching when I had to pull the bandage tight. You're good at this, he observed. I was studying to be a nurse, before... I tied off the bandage. Before life got in the way. Why did you stop? My mother got sick. Cancer. The bills were... I had to work instead. He was quiet for a moment. Then, is she in treatment? She was. She's in remission now, but the follow-up care, the medications... I stepped back, studying my work. That should hold. Change the dressing twice a day. Watch for signs of infection, redness, swelling, fever. Emma. He caught my wrist as I turned away, his grip gentle despite the blood still drying on his skin. You didn't ask what happened. You didn't ask if someone else is hurt. You didn't ask if I killed anyone. Would you tell me if I did? No. Then why ask? I met his eyes, refusing to look away. You do what you do. I take care of your daughters. That's the arrangement. Something flickered in his expression. Respect, maybe, or surprise. You're stronger than you look. I've had to be. He stood, towering over me even in his injured state. And suddenly the room felt too small. He still held my wrist, his thumb tracing patterns on my pulse point. I knew he could feel how my heart raced. This afternoon, he said quietly, someone tried to take something from me. Someone thought they could move against my family and live to brag about it. His free hand came up to cup my face, tilting my head back. I made sure they understood their mistake. Permanently. It was a confession, an admission of violence, maybe even murder. I should have been horrified, should have pulled away. Instead, I asked, are the girls safe? His eyes widened fractionally. That's your question, not whether I'm a monster. I already know what you are. My voice was steady even as my insides trembled. I'm asking if Sophia and Isabella are safe. Always. The word was a vow. They're the only pure things left in my world. I would burn it all down to keep them safe. Then that's all that matters. He stared at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then slowly, deliberately, he leaned down until his forehead rested against mine. His breath ghosted across my lips, warm and intimate. "You're going to ruin me," he whispered. "You and your goodness, and your strength, and your absolute refusal to be afraid of me." "I am afraid of you," the admission slipped out before I could stop it. "I'm terrified, but not of what you'll do to me. I'm afraid of what you make me feel." His hand tightened on my face. "What do I make you feel? Like I matter. Like I'm not just surviving anymore. Like I could be—" I swallowed hard. "Like I could be someone's everything." "Emma!" The door burst open. Marco stood there, his phone in hand, his expression grim. "Boss, we have a problem. The Rossi family knows about the shipment. They're moving on the warehouse district, and they've been asking questions about the nanny." I felt Dante go rigid against me. When he pulled back, his expression had transformed into something lethal. "How much do they know?" His voice was ice. "Enough. One of the guards at the gate might have talked before he couldn't talk anymore." Marco's eyes flicked to me. "They know she's important to the girls. They might know she's important to you. Lockdown protocol. Now. Triple the guards on the nursery. No one in or out without my express permission." Dante was already moving, ignoring the blood still staining his clothes. "Get the twins to the safe room." "Dante, wait." I grabbed his arm. "What's happening? Are the girls in danger?" He turned back, and the look in his eyes made my blood run cold. "The Rossi family are our rivals. They've been trying to undermine my operations for months. If they think hurting you or my daughters will give them leverage," he cupped my face with both hands, urgent and intense. "You stay with the girls. You don't leave the safe room until I come for you personally. Do you understand?" "Yes, but Marco will protect you. He's the only person besides me I trust with their lives, with yours." He pressed his lips to my forehead, brief and fierce. "Don't be brave. Don't be stupid. Just stay alive." Then he was gone, barking orders in Italian as he strode down the corridor. Marco took my arm. "Come on, we need to move fast." The next hour was a blur of activity. Marco ushered me and the twins, confused and frightened by the sudden chaos, into a room hidden behind a bookshelf in Dante's study. It was larger than I expected, equipped with beds, supplies, monitors showing every angle of the property. A panic room. A fortress within a fortress. "Emmy, what's happening?" Isabella clutched my hand, her eyes wide with fear. "Where's Papa?" "He's taking care of some business," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "We're going to stay here for a little while, okay? It's like a game, an adventure." Sophia wasn't fooled. Someone's trying to hurt us, like they hurt Mama. My heart clenched. "Your papa won't let anyone hurt you." "Neither will I." Marco positioned himself by the door, his weapon drawn, his eyes on the monitors. I could see feeds from all over the house. Men moving with military precision, taking positions, checking weapons. And in the front courtyard, I saw Dante, surrounded by his men, directing them with sharp gestures. Even from the grainy camera feed, he looked dangerous, powerful, completely in his element. Hours crawled by. I kept the twins occupied with stories and quiet games, but my eyes kept drifting to the monitors. I watched as black SUVs pulled up to the front gate, watched as men in suits climbed out, their body language aggressive, watched as Dante walked forward to meet them, alone, unarmed. "What's he doing?" I breathed. "Marco, why did he go out there alone?" "Showing strength, no fear." Marco's voice was tight. "The boss doesn't back down from anyone." I watched as Dante spoke with a man who had to be the Rossi family head. Silver-haired, expensive suit, surrounded by bodyguards. The conversation seemed civil from a distance, but I could see the tension in every line of Dante's body. Then, I saw the silver-haired man gesture toward the house, toward where we were hidden. Dante's response was swift and brutal. He grabbed the man by the throat, lifting him partially off the ground, his face inches from his targets. Even without sound, I could see him speaking, could see the absolute fury in his expression. The bodyguards reached for their weapons, but Dante's men were faster. Within seconds, dozens of red laser sights dotted the Rossi men's chests. Checkmate. Dante released the silver-haired man, who stumbled backward, his face purple. More words were exchanged. Then, finally, the Rossi family retreated to their vehicles and left. I released a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. 20 minutes later, the bookshelf swung open. Dante stood there, still blood-stained, still dangerous, but his eyes softened when they landed on the twins. "Papa!" They ran to him, and he scooped them both up, holding them tight. "Are you hurt?" Sophia touched the bandage on his shoulder, visible through his torn shirt. "Just a scratch, Piccola. Nothing to worry about." He kissed both their heads, then his eyes found mine over their dark curls. "Emma, come here." I approached on shaky legs. He set the twins down gently. "Go with Marco. He'll take you back to the nursery. Rosa made your favorite cookies." When they were gone, Dante pulled me into his arms, crushing me against his chest. I could hear his heart hammering beneath my ear, could feel the tremor in his hands as they fisted in my hair. "They wanted to trade," he said roughly. "Information about my operations in exchange for the pretty nanny with the kind eyes. They'd been watching, taking pictures, planning." His arms tightened until I could barely breathe. "They thought you were my weakness. I'm not. You are." He pulled back just enough to look at me, his eyes burning with an intensity that stole my breath. "You are, Emma, and that makes you the most dangerous thing in my life. Because I can't lose you. I won't. And I'll kill anyone who tries to take you from me. Dante, I'm not a good man. I've told you that. But God help me, I'm falling for you. And I don't know how to stop." His hands framed my face, thumbs brushing away tears I didn't know I'd shed. "Tell me to let you go. Tell me to send you away where you'll be safe. Tell me anything except that you feel the same way. I should have lied. Should have protected us both from this impossible, dangerous thing growing between us. Instead, I whispered, I can't." And then his mouth was on mine, and I was drowning in cedar and smoke and the taste of something forbidden and utterly intoxicating. The kiss shattered something inside me. Some final wall I'd been clinging to, some illusion that I could remain detached, professional, safe. Dante kissed me like a man starving, like I was oxygen, and he'd been drowning. His hands were everywhere, tangled in my hair, spanning my waist, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. When we finally broke apart, both gasping, he rested his forehead against mine. "This is insane," he breathed. "You should run from me." "I know." My fingers clutched his torn, blood-stained shirt. "I can't. Emma." My name on his lips sounded like a prayer and a curse. "If you stay, if we do this, there's no going back. My world will consume you. My enemies will target you. Every day will be a risk. Every day already is a risk. I was drowning before I came here. At least now I have something worth drowning for." He pulled back to study my face, searching for doubt, for fear. Whatever he found there made his expression soften into something almost tender. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met, or the most foolish. Maybe both." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. The first real smile I'd seen from him. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost vulnerable. My Lucia used to say the same thing about herself, that loving me made her brave and foolish in equal measure. The mention of his dead wife should have felt like cold water. Instead, it felt like trust, like he was letting me see a part of himself he kept locked away. "Tell me about her," I said softly. "Please." He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he took my hand and led me to a leather couch in the corner of the safe room. We sat, and he kept my hand in his thumb tracing circles on my palm. I met Lucia at my cousin's wedding. She was a bridesmaid, all laughter and light, so different from anyone in my world. She had no idea who I was, what I did. She saw me as just a man. His voice grew rough. I should have left her alone, should have walked away, but I was selfish. I wanted that light for myself. What happened to her? A rival family. Not the Rossis, they're opportunistic jackals, but they have some honor. This was the Marchetti family 3 years ago. They wanted to send a message, to show me they could reach what I loved most. His jaw clenched. They planted a bomb in her car. She was driving home from the twins' preschool. If she'd picked them up that day instead of letting the nanny do it. He stopped, his breathing ragged. She died instantly, at least there's that. She didn't suffer. My chest ached for him, for the twins, for the woman I'd never meet. I'm so sorry. After she died, I hunted every member of the Marchetti family. Every single one. His voice was flat, emotionless, which made it more terrifying. It took me 6 months. Their father, their sons, their soldiers. I erased them from existence, and when I was done, when their blood was on my hands, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no closure, just emptiness. And the twins? They were too young to fully understand at first. But as they got older, the nightmares started. They'd hear Lucia's voice, see her in shadows. Child psychologists, therapists, medication, nothing helped. They just got worse, more destructive, more lost. He turned to me, his eyes haunted. You're the first person who's reached them since their mother died. The first person who's made them feel safe enough to sleep. I just sing to them. It's nothing special. It's everything. His hand cupped my cheek. Don't you see? You've done what an army of professionals couldn't. You've given them peace, hope. And in doing so, you've given me something I thought I'd lost forever. What's that? A reason to want more than revenge. More than just survival. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my lips. You make me want to be better. To build something instead of just destroying. Dante. His phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He cursed in Italian, checking the screen. I have to go. The situation with the Rossis isn't fully resolved. But you stay here tonight. The safe room is more secure. What about the girls? Marco's moving them here too. You'll all sleep here until I'm certain the threat is contained. He stood, helping me up. I need you to promise me something. What? If anything happens to me, don't. I pressed my fingers to his lips. Don't say that. He kissed my fingertips, his eyes intense. If anything happens to me, there's a go bag in that closet. Cash, passports for you and the girls, new identities. Marco knows the plan. He'll get you out of the country, set you up somewhere safe. The girls need their father, not a stranger and a bag of cash. They need to survive. And so do you. He pulled me close one last time, breathing me in. Promise me, Emma. If I fall, you run, you take my daughters and you disappear, and you give them the life Lucia wanted for them. A normal life. Safe. Free from all this. Tears burned my eyes. I promise. Good. He kissed my forehead, lingering. I'll be back before sunrise. Lock the door behind me. Trust no one except Marco. Then he was gone, and I was alone in the reinforced room, my heart racing, my mind spinning. Marco brought the twins 20 minutes later, along with their favorite blankets and toys. They were exhausted, confused by the upheaval, and clung to me as I settled them into the beds. Is Papa going to be okay? Isabella whispered. Your Papa is the strongest man I know, I assured her. He'll be fine. But what if the bad men hurt him like they hurt Mama? Sophia's voice cracked. I gathered them both close, my own fears mirroring theirs. Your Papa has an army protecting him, and he's fighting to keep you safe. That makes him even stronger. I sang to them, the same lullaby as always, and eventually they slept, but I couldn't. I watched the monitors, tracking movement throughout the house, jumping at every shadow. Marco stood guard by the door, silent and vigilant. Around 2 a.m., I brought him coffee from the small kitchenette. Thank you, Miss Harper. He took it, his eyes never leaving the screens. Emma, please. I think we're past formalities. He nodded once. The boss, he's different with you. Softer. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? In our world, dangerous. Softness gets you killed. He glanced at me. But maybe dangerous is worth it. I've known Dante since we were kids in Sicily. I've never seen him like this. Not even with Lucia. What do you mean? Lucia was his heart, pure and good. Everything he wasn't. He loved her like you love sunshine. Grateful for it, but always knowing it's temporary. Marco's scarred face was thoughtful. But you're different. You're not sunshine. You're steel wrapped in silk. You've survived your own battles. You understand darkness because you've lived in it. That makes you his equal in a way Lucia never could be. I'm not his equal. I'm just a nanny who bandaged his wounds without flinching. who stayed calm during a lockdown, who promised to protect his daughters with your life. Marco's eyes met mine. You're exactly what he needs. What they all need. Don't underestimate yourself. Before I could respond, the monitors showed movement, vehicles approaching. My heart leapt into my throat until I saw Dante climb out of the lead SUV, surrounded by his men. He was alive, whole. Marco's radio crackled. All clear. Stand down from lockdown protocol. 20 minutes later, Dante appeared at the safe room door. His suit jacket was gone, his shirt still torn and blood-stained from earlier, but his eyes were bright with something that looked like triumph. It's done, he said simply. The Rossis have agreed to terms. There will be no more threats against this house. What kind of terms? I asked. The kind that don't concern you, but his tone was gentle. The girls can return to their room. You can return to yours. Or... He paused, his gaze intense. You can come with me. Marco suddenly found something fascinating on the monitors. I looked at the sleeping twins, then back at Dante. I should stay with them. Something flickered in his expression. Disappointment, maybe. Of course, you're right. But tomorrow... I took a breath, gathering courage. Tomorrow we should talk. About this. About us. Us. He tested the word, and a slow smile curved his lips. I liked the sound of that. He left after kissing each daughter's forehead, his hand lingering on my shoulder as he passed. The touch burned through my thin sweater, a promise of conversations yet to come. The next week was surreal. Life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be in a house with armed guards and daily security briefings. The twins continued to improve, their nightmares becoming rare, their smiles more frequent. They started calling me Emmy Mama when they thought I couldn't hear, and each time my heart broke and healed simultaneously. Dante and I moved around each other carefully, aware of the staff's watching eyes, the twins' curious glances. But there were stolen moments, his hand brushing mine as we passed in hallways, lingering looks across the dinner table, late-night conversations in his study after the girls were asleep. He told me about his childhood in Sicily, about violence and poverty and climbing his way to power through blood and ruthlessness. I told him about my mother's illness, about dropping out of school, about the shame of being poor in a world that equated worth with wealth. We were both survivors, both fighters, both carrying scars that would never fully heal. And somehow, impossibly, we were falling in love. It was Isabella who pushed things forward. 2 weeks after the lockdown, she approached me in the garden where I was reading while the twins played. Emmy? She climbed into my lap, her small face serious. Do you love our papa? I froze. That's a complicated question, sweetheart. Not really. Sophia appeared on my other side, equally serious. Either you do or you don't. I care about him very much. But do you love him? Isabella persisted. Because he loves you. We heard him tell Marco. He said you're the best thing that's happened to this house since Mama died. Tears pricked my eyes. Your papa said that? They nodded in unison. We think you should marry him, Sophia announced. Then you'd be our mama for real, not just Emmy Mama. Girls, it's not that simple. Why not? Isabella's dark eyes, so like Dante's, searched mine. Don't you want to stay with us forever? Of course I do, but then marry Papa. Stay forever. Be our family. Sophia took my hand. Please, Emmy, we lost one mama. We don't want to lose you too. I held them both close, my heart shattering. You won't lose me. I promise. No matter what happens with your papa, you won't lose me. But even as I said the words, I wondered if I could keep that promise. In Dante's world, nothing was guaranteed. Not safety, not tomorrow, not love. That evening, after the twins were asleep, I found Dante in his study. He looked up from his paperwork, and the smile that crossed his face made my stomach flutter. Emma, I was hoping you'd come. He stood, moving around the desk. I have something for you. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a bank card and a letter on official-looking letterhead. What is this? Your mother's medical bills. All of them. Paid in full. And that card is yours. A personal account I've set up. You're not just the nanny anymore. He paused, choosing words carefully. You're important to me. To us. I want you to have security. Dante, I can't accept this. It's too much. You can and you will. His voice was firm. Emma, I don't know how to do this. Romance, courtship, those aren't things men like me excel at. But I know how to provide, how to protect, how to ensure the people I care about never want for anything. I don't need your money. I know. That's why I'm giving it to you. He cupped my face in both hands. You're the first person in my life who wants me, not what I can do for them. But let me do this anyway. Let me take care of you the way you take care of my daughters, the way you're starting to take care of me. The twins asked me to marry you today. I blurted out. He went very still. What did you say? I told them it wasn't that simple. Why isn't it? He stepped closer, his intensity overwhelming. I'm falling in love with you, Emma. Maybe I already have. I know it's fast. I know it's insane. But I'm not a patient man. I've already lost too much time. Lost too much. Period. I don't want to waste another moment pretending I don't want you in every way possible. I work for you. I'm your employee. This is the only real thing I've felt in 3 years. His thumbs brushed my cheekbones. Tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me I'm alone in this, and I'll back away. I'll let you be just the nanny, nothing more. But if you feel even a fraction of what I feel, his voice roughened, then don't push me away because you think you're not good enough. Because you're wrong. You're better than I deserve, better than this life deserves, but I'm too selfish to let you go. I'm scared, I whispered. Your world, the danger, the violence. What if something happens? What if... Then we'll face it together. He pressed his forehead to mine. I can't promise you safety. I can't promise you normal. But I can promise you this. I will love you with everything I have. I will protect you with my last breath. And I will spend every day trying to be worthy of the gift you've given my daughters. Given me. What gift? Hope. Light. Love. He kissed me softly, reverently. Marry me, Emma. Not because the twins want it. Not because I'm rich or powerful. Marry me because you love me too. Because you want this broken, dangerous man and all his baggage. Because you believe we can build something beautiful from all this darkness. I should have said no. Should have been sensible, cautious, smart. Instead, I said, yes. The next 3 months passed in a blur of wedding preparations, legal paperwork, and the gradual, beautiful process of becoming a family. Dante insisted on a small, private ceremony. Just his most trusted men, the twins, and a few staff members who'd become more like family. No crowds, no publicity, nothing that could make us targets. In my world, he'd explained one night as we reviewed security protocols for the 100th time, privacy is survival. The fewer people who know about you, about us, the safer you are. I'd learned so much about his world in those months. The legitimate businesses, import, export, real estate, several restaurants that provided cover for the less legitimate operations. The careful balance of power between families, the unwritten rules that kept all-out war from erupting, the loyalty that bound his men to him, forged through years of shared danger and mutual protection. I'd also learned about the cost. The constant vigilance, the inability to simply exist without calculating risks, the weight Dante carried, knowing every decision could mean life or death for the people who depended on him. But I'd also seen another side. Dante with his daughters, patient and tender as he taught them to ride bikes in the garden, guards watching from the shadows. Dante in the kitchen at midnight, attempting to bake cookies because Isabella had mentioned missing her mother's recipe, flour dusting his expensive suit. Dante holding me after nightmares, mine now, not just the twins, whispering promises in Italian until I calmed. The twins had blossomed. Their nightmares had all but disappeared, replaced by normal childhood dreams. They laughed freely now, played without the edge of desperation that had marked their early behavior. They'd started calling me Mama Emma, and each time, I felt my heart expand impossibly larger. The wedding took place on a Sunday morning in the garden, under an arch of white roses that Rosa had spent days perfecting. I wore a simple cream dress, elegant but understated, with the twins in matching flower girl dresses they'd helped pick out. They took their role seriously, scattering petals with solemn concentration, while Dante waited at the altar. When I saw him standing there in a charcoal gray suit, his eyes locked on mine with such intensity it stole my breath, I knew I'd made the right choice. This dangerous, complicated, damaged man was mine, and I was his. The ceremony was brief, conducted by a judge Dante trusted. When he slipped the ring on my finger, a stunning emerald surrounded by diamonds that had belonged to his grandmother, his hands trembled slightly. "I never thought I'd do this again," he murmured, low enough that only I could hear. "Never thought I'd want to. Thank you for proving me wrong. Thank you for letting me in," I whispered back. When the judge pronounced us married, Dante kissed me with a gentleness that belied his dangerous reputation. The twins cheered. Marco actually smiled, and for a moment, everything was perfect. The reception was intimate, dinner in the main dining room, decorated simply but beautifully. The twins sat between us, their happiness infectious. Sophia made a toast with her apple juice, declaring that now we were a real family again. And Isabella added that she'd prayed to her mama in heaven to send them a new mama who would love them. "And mama sent you, so you must be special." I cried. Dante held my hand under the table, his grip tight. Later that night, after the twins were asleep and the house had settled into quiet, Dante found me on the balcony off our bedroom. Our bedroom now, not just his. The night air was cool, scented with jasmine from the garden below. "Mrs. Salvatore," he came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist, pulling me back against his chest. "How does it feel?" "Surreal. Terrifying. Perfect." I leaned into him. "I keep waiting to wake up and find this was all a dream. If it is, I'm dreaming it too." He pressed a kiss to my temple. "I have something for you. A wedding gift." He handed me a legal document. I scanned it, my eyes widening. "Dante, this is full legal custody of the twins. If anything happens to me, they're yours. No court battles, no questions. You're their mother now in every legal sense." His arms tightened around me. "And this," he handed me another paper, "is the deed to a house in Switzerland. It's remote, secure, completely off any grid. The go bag I mentioned months ago, it's there. If you ever need to run, you take the girls and go there. You'll be safe." My throat tightened. "Nothing's going to happen to you." "You can't know that. This life, these choices I've made, they come with consequences. And I need to know that if the worst happens, you and the girls will survive. Will thrive." He turned me in his arms, his dark eyes intense. "Promise me, Emma. Promise me you'll run if you need to." "I promise." I cupped his face. "But you promise me something too. Promise me you'll fight like hell to come home. That you won't take unnecessary risks. That you'll remember you have people who need you now." "I promise." He kissed me deeply, pouring everything into it. Love, desperation, hope. "You've made me want to live again, Emma. Not just survive, but actually live. That's a gift I can never repay. Then don't repay it. Just love me. Love our daughters. That's all I need. Our daughters." He smiled against my lips. I love the sound of that. We stood there on the balcony, wrapped in each other, until the stars faded and dawn painted the sky pink and gold. The first year of our marriage was an education in contrasts. There were moments of pure domestic bliss, family dinners, bedtime stories, lazy Sundays in the garden where Dante would chase the twins while they shrieked with laughter. There were romantic evenings after the girls were asleep, Dante teaching me to appreciate wine and opera, me teaching him that it was okay to be vulnerable, to let someone take care of him for once. But there were also the darker moments. Times when Dante would come home late, blood on his clothes, his eyes distant and cold. Times when security protocols would suddenly tighten, when Marco would appear with grim news of threats or betrayals. Times when I'd wake in the night to find Dante's side of the bed empty, and I'd discover him in his study, surrounded by papers and weapons, planning strategies I didn't want to know about. I learned to live with the duality. The man who kissed scraped knees and braided hair was the same man who'd once told me he'd burned an entire family tree to ash. The hands that held me gently at night were the same hands that had pulled triggers without hesitation. But I also saw the changes. Dante became more cautious, more strategic. He started delegating dangerous tasks rather than handling them himself. He'd come home for dinner every night, unless absolutely impossible. He talked about the future, about the girls' education, about eventually transitioning to fully legitimate businesses, about maybe, someday, leaving this life behind entirely. "I want to give them what Lucia wanted," he told me one night, watching the twins sleep. "A normal life. Safety. The freedom to be whoever they want to be, not who my enemies might force them to become. That's a beautiful dream. It's more than a dream. It's a plan." He took my hand. 5 years. That's how long Marco and I estimate it'll take to fully legitimize our operations and establish enough political and legal protections that the girls will be untouchable. 5 years, and then we disappear. New identities, new country, new life. "You'd really leave all this?" I gestured at the opulent room, the empire beyond. "In a heartbeat. This was never about the power or the money, Emma. It was about survival, respect, protecting what's mine." His eyes met mine. "But now what's mine includes you and the girls, and I'd give up everything to keep you safe." The twins thrived. By their 6th birthday, they were completely different children, confident, happy, secure. They excelled in school, made friends, showed talents in music and art. The haunted look in their eyes had been replaced by the bright curiosity of children who felt loved and safe. They remembered their birth mother, we made sure of that, keeping photos displayed, telling stories about Lucia, honoring her memory. But they also fully embraced me as their mother. And I embraced them as my daughters in every way that mattered. The turning point came 2 years into our marriage. I was in the garden with the twins when Marco appeared, his expression urgent. "Mrs. Salvatore, we have a situation. The Rossi family. There's been an incident." My blood ran cold. "What kind of incident?" "The old man died last night, heart attack. His son Angelo, he's consolidating power, and he's making noise about reversing his father's agreements, about settling old scores." Marco's jaw clenched. "He's specifically mentioned you and the girls. Says his father was weak for accepting Dante's terms, that real men don't negotiate. Where's Dante?" "On his way back from the city. He's implementing emergency protocols. I need to get you and the girls to the safe room now." The twins, sensing the urgency, didn't argue. We were secured in the reinforced room within minutes, Marco and 3 other guards positioned outside. I held both girls close, singing to calm them, and myself. Dante arrived 30 minutes later, his expression thunderous. "Angelo Rossi is a hothead and an idiot, but he's dangerous. He's already moved against 2 of my warehouses, killed 4 of my men." His eyes met mine. "He's declared war. What does that mean for us? It means this house becomes a fortress. It means you and the girls don't leave the property until this is resolved. It means—" He stopped, his jaw working. "It means I have to end this, permanently." "Dante, no. There has to be another way." "There isn't." His voice was flat. "Angelo wants blood. He wants to prove himself by taking from me what his father couldn't. And I will burn the world before I let him touch you or our daughters." The siege lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks of living in lockdown, of Dante leaving before dawn and returning after midnight, of whispered conversations I wasn't meant to hear. The twins were remarkably resilient, but I could see the stress affecting them, the return of trouble sleeping, the clinging behavior. I tried to shield them, to maintain normalcy, but the fear was a constant presence. Then one night, Dante came home early. His clothes were clean, his expression calm. He gathered all 3 of us in his arms. "It's over," he said simply. "Angelo Rossi is dead. The family has surrendered. There will be no more threats." "How?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. "Does it matter?" His eyes searched mine. "He would have killed you, Emma. He would have taken our daughters and used them against me. I did what I had to do. I should have been horrified, should have pulled away from this man capable of such violence. Instead, I held him tighter, because I understood now, truly understood, that in his world, mercy was weakness and love demanded ruthlessness. He'd done what he thought necessary to protect us, and I couldn't condemn him for that. "No more," I whispered. "Please, Dante, no more of this. Let's start the 5-year plan now. Let's get out before something worse happens." He pulled back to look at me, surprise flickering across his face. You want to leave? Give up all this? I want to be free. I want our daughters to grow up without armed guards and panic rooms. I want to wake up every morning knowing you'll come home that night. Tears streamed down my face. I love you, Dante Salvatore. But I love the man you could be more than the man this life has made you. And I think you do too. Something cracked in his expression. He buried his face in my hair, his shoulders shaking. The twins hugged us both, not understanding but offering comfort anyway. Okay, he finally said, his voice rough. Okay, we'll start the transition. Marco can handle most of the operations. We'll gradually step back, move assets, establish the legal protections we need. And then, he looked at the twins, then at me. Then we disappear. We become whoever we want to be. A normal family. Do you even know how to be normal? I asked, smiling through my tears. No, but I'm willing to learn. He kissed me softly. For you. For them. For us. The transition took 3 years, not 5. Dante was more motivated than even he'd anticipated, and Marco proved capable of managing the business operations with minimal oversight. We gradually pulled back from the dangerous elements, investing in legitimate ventures, establishing political and legal connections that would protect us even after we left. During those years, I watched Dante transform. The hard edges softened. The constant tension in his shoulders eased. He laughed more, smiled more, actually relaxed. He took cooking classes with the twins, learned to fish, started reading books for pleasure rather than just strategy manuals. He became, slowly but surely, the man he might have been if violence hadn't shaped his youth. On a crisp autumn morning, when the twins were 8 years old, we boarded a private plane. Our destination was a small town in New Zealand, remote, beautiful, impossibly far from the life we were leaving behind. Dante Salvatore, feared crime boss, became Daniel Sullivan, investment consultant. I remained Emma, though now with a different last name and no past to hide from. The twins became simply Sophia and Isabella Sullivan, 2 bright girls with their whole lives ahead of them. The house we moved into was nothing like the mansion we'd left. It was comfortable but modest, with a garden I could tend myself, neighbors who waved hello, a local school where the twins could be normal children. The first morning in our new life, I woke to find Dante, Daniel now, already awake, watching me with an expression of wonder. What? I asked, smiling. I never thought I'd have this. Peace. Safety. A chance to just be. He pulled me close. You gave me this, Emma. You and our daughters. You saved me from becoming a monster. You saved yourself. I just showed you it was possible. No. He kissed my forehead. You loved me when I didn't deserve it. You stayed when you should have run. You believed I could be better, and that belief made it true. We lay there in comfortable silence, listening to the twins start to stir in their rooms, to the birds singing outside, to the ordinary sounds of an extraordinary gift, normalcy. The years that followed were the happiest of my life. We built a real family, grounded in love rather than survival. The twins excelled in school, made friends, discovered passions. Sophia in painting, Isabella in music. They grew into confident, kind young women who remembered their past but weren't defined by it. Dante, I still sometimes thought of him by his real name, found peace in the quiet life. He coached the twins' soccer team, volunteered at the local community center, became known as a devoted father and husband, rather than a feared criminal. The nightmares that had plagued him for years faded. The cold distance in his eyes was replaced by warmth. We built something beautiful from the ashes of his old life. Something worth protecting, worth cherishing, worth the sacrifices we'd made to achieve it. On our 10th wedding anniversary, Dante took me to the beach at sunset. The twins were at a friend's house, giving us rare time alone. We walked along the shore, hand in hand, our feet sinking into wet sand. Do you ever regret it? He asked suddenly. Leaving that life? The money? The luxury? Never. Not once. I squeezed his hand. Do you? I regret the person I had to be to earn that money. But leaving it behind? Becoming this? He gestured at the simple life we built. Best decision I ever made. second only to hiring a broke, desperate nanny who turned out to be my salvation. I laughed, leaning into him. I wasn't your salvation. We saved each other. Maybe you're right. He stopped, turning to face me as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. I love you, Emma Sullivan, more than I loved you as Emma Salvatore. Because now I love you not as someone I need to protect or possess, but as my equal, my partner, my choice every single day. I love you too. Both versions of you, the man you were and the man you've become. We kissed as the sun set, two survivors who'd found their way out of darkness and into light. Two broken people who'd healed each other, two souls who'd discovered that love, real love, was worth any sacrifice. Behind us, in our modest house full of laughter and warmth, our daughters waited. Our family, our future, our happily ever after, earned not through fairy tale magic, but through courage, sacrifice, and the unwavering belief that people could change. And as we walked back toward home, toward the life we'd built together, I knew with absolute certainty that every moment of fear, every sacrifice, every risk had been worth it, because I'd found my home, not in a place, but in the man beside me and the family we'd created, and that was more valuable than any empire could ever be. The story of the mafia boss and the nanny who changed everything had come full circle. From darkness to light, from survival to life, from broken to whole, and we lived, truly lived, happily ever after.